Hello and welcome back to yet another exciting week on the stock market. In this week's episode, I will take a closer look at the quarterly 13F filing from Berkshire Hathaway. Then I will give an update to my portfolio, and finally I will answer some questions which I have received from the audience. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at the 13F filing from Berkshire Hathaway. So how I became aware of this was through this email that I have received from Seeking Alpha that Berkshire Hathaway has trimmed some of its bank stocks, meaning it has exited Goldman Sachs, it has lowered the amount of JP Morgan stocks, and the most interesting thing which I find here is that they have added Barrick Gold, meaning a gold mining company. Despite the fact that they have bought 20.9 million shares, meaning a stake of around $500 million, it is still less than 1% of Berkshire Hathaway's fortune which has been placed here. So let me just give you my two favorite quotes from Warren Buffett regarding gold. Gold gets dug out of the ground in Africa or someplace, then we melt it down, dig another hole, bury it again, and pay people to stand around guarding it. It has no utility. Anyone watching from Mars would be scratching their head. And the second quote: gold is a way of going long on fear, and it has been a pretty good way of going long on fear from time to time. But you really have to hope people become more afraid in a year or two than they are now. And if they become more afraid, you make money. If they become less afraid, you lose money. But the gold itself doesn't produce anything. So this is just to try and put things into perspective. So when you look at these quotes, it becomes very obvious that Warren Buffett is not the biggest fan of gold, to put it mildly. But one thing which is very important to note here is he is not buying physical gold, which is not producing anything. He is actually buying a company which is mining gold, and if you expect the gold prices to go up, then that company stands to earn more. Whether or not this will hold true depends on the fear that people have. But what I find really interesting is when you go and take a closer look on Seeking Alpha, on Barrick Gold, you can see that the price it is trading at now is close to being at the highest point it has been for the last 5 years. And due to this 13F filing from Berkshire Hathaway, you know that he has bought this within the last 3 months, meaning that he must have been buying very close to this peak. So how can you justify as a value investor to buy very close to the peak? Well, if you look to the PE ratio here, you can see that it is a little more than 10.5, meaning that this stock is still relatively cheap compared to the overall market in the United States, which has a PE of around 20, I think it is. So, as a value investor, this means that you must believe that the gold price will stay at least the same level or potentially go even higher for this to be a good deal. And if we look to the article again, we can see that Berkshire Hathaway has acquired 20.9 million shares for around 500 million. But if we actually go and take a closer look at the Form 13F filing and scroll down and find Barrick Gold, we can see how many shares that he has purchased, meaning 20.9, and at which price. So if we go and calculate the price ourselves, then we can find the average price at which he has actually bought. So if we plot the numbers from the 13F filing into a simple Excel spreadsheet, then you can see we have the price, the numbers of shares, and then we have an average price of $26.94. And if we then go back to Seeking Alpha, we can see that the current price was 26.99, meaning only 5 cents more than the price where Berkshire Hathaway has acquired its 20.9 million stocks at. Whether or not this is a good time to buy, I do not know. We will have to wait and see into the future. But for me personally, this is truly a remarkable week on the stock market. And in general, this year, we have seen negative future contract prices on oil. We have a global pandemic, and now we are seeing Berkshire Hathaway buying into a gold mining company when you know how Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger feels about gold on a general sense. Just look at those two quotes, and if you then take into consideration that Charlie Munger has said that the only time that he would have thought it was a good idea to buy gold was in 1929, where you expect that people will have more fear in a year. I will of course include links in the description below, both to this article on Seeking Alpha regarding Berkshire Hathaway's purchases. Then there will be a link to Yahoo Finance on YouTube where they are going through this 13F filing, and of course also a link to some of my favorite quotes from Warren Buffett. This time I will just include a link to his gold stocks, or rather to his quote regarding gold, since I just highlighted two in this episode and there is plenty to choose from. Then let's move on to my portfolio and see what has happened within the week. So the first thing we notice is that there's a green circle around this episode, so that means that the portfolio has increased in value compared to last week. So last week the portfolio value was 62,200 and this week it is 64,900. So that is an increase of 2,700. Then you need to subtract 1,000 from that, since you can see that the cost has increased by $1,000, meaning that I have been investing $1,000 within the week, and the $1,000 went into Verizon Communications. I simply just make one purchase, which was the mixture of the dividends which I have received last week and some more dividends which I have received this week. So this week I received a little less than $30 from Synchrony Financials, bringing the total dividends for this month so far up to $88.14. So once again we can see the portfolio is really starting to contributing and doing some of the heavy lifting. Of course I know that it is still less than 10% currently that my portfolio is contributing to what I'm actually buying if I was to deploy $1,000 every month. If we then just take a short look at some of the news updates within the portfolio, Simon Property has missed its funds from operation by 11 cents and it missed on revenue by $70 million. So this is really not good news. This is worse than expected, so perhaps we will see the stock dropping a little in the near future. If we then continue with some more positive news, 3M has declared a dividend of $1.47, which is in line with previous. So this is as we would have expected, since they usually only raise the dividend one time a year, and currently they are under a lot of pressure, but this still amounts to a forward yield of 3.55%. So really happy about that. If we then continue with Prudential Financials, then they have also declared a dividend which is in line with previous, and if you buy the stock now, that actually gives you a forward yield of 6.23%, which is quite good. If we then go to questions from the audience, then the first question goes like this: Hey LMG, exactly how much do I pay for trading on Revolut? And I guess this is from some of the newer viewers on my channel, but I'm still delighted to have a question like this, even though I have answered it in the first episode that I made. But now, since I have been doing this for around 8 months, I think it's fair to actually answer the question once again. So if we go into Revolut's webpage, we can see here that you are allowed to do 3 commission-free trades per month. If you don't pay for Revolut, if you are a subscriber of the premium plan, then you will have 8 free trades per month, and if you are a metal subscriber, you will have unlimited free trades per month. Otherwise, as a standard user, you will pay £1 or €1 or whatever currency depending on what country you're located in, per trade, besides the standard that you have. On top of this, then there is an annual custody fee of 0.01% of what you have actually invested or what you have on your investment account. So if you have exchanged currency into dollars and put it into your trading account, then you're actually paying a custody fee of 0.01% just for having your money in that account, despite the fact that you haven't traded yet. And the next thing is the Security and Exchange Commission fee, which is $20.70 for every $1 million that you trade, so this will be minimal as well. Then the next thing is the FINRA, or the Financial Industry Regulator Authority, charge on all stock sales and ETFs that you do of 0.000119 per share, with a minimum charge of 1 cent and a maximum charge of $5.95. So these are the fees that you will have to pay when you use Revolut for trading. So that sums up yet another exciting week on the stock market. I know that there was a ton of news which you could have covered, like for instance how Epic Games has sued Apple for making their own payment system within this very popular game called Fortnite. But for me, it was much more interesting to see or have a closer look at the 13F filing from Berkshire Hathaway, since for me that is really substantial news. I would never have thought that I would see this happen in Warren Buffett's lifetime. So that was an update on the portfolio, the news, and a question answered from the audience. So until I see you next Sunday, remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Bye!